From the Detroit Free Press, it's Tuesday. Here are today's top stories, presented by Bush's Fresh Food Market. Bush's has over 4,000 Michigan products, including the freshest fruit and vegetables, meat, seafood, and baked goods. Stop by one of Bush's 16 locations for the personal service you expect from your neighborhood grocer.
For the Detroit Free Press, I'm Kristen Seamus with a story about a Detroit emergency room doctor who travels the nation, helping in areas facing medical crises. His name is Dr. Mark Rosenthal, and he's a physician with the National Disaster Medical System. He's often tapped to deploy with a team of medical workers to give a boost in places where there are gaps in the healthcare system. Sometimes that means flying into disaster-ravaged areas by helicopter, like he did in Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria. And now, during the coronavirus pandemic, it means he's setting up mass vaccination sites, like he did in California in the spring, and doing rounds in intensive care units in states facing a surge in COVID-19 hospitalizations. Rosenthal said his job isn't to judge those who haven't followed the public health advice to get a vaccine, but it's to help people no matter their circumstances, even if it can be frustrating. He said, quote, "I try to talk to people about being a patriot. It's really helping your fellow American. And right now, that means getting a vaccine and wearing a mask," he said. To learn more about Rosenthal's story, go to freep.com.
This is Minna Arshad with the Detroit Free Press. Reports of potential explosives closed Ambassador Bridge for hours on Monday. The possible explosives were reportedly in a vehicle crossing the bridge. Canadian border officials found them upon inspection. The Canada Border Services Agency detained the driver of the vehicle, who was taken into custody. Police said they believe this to be an isolated incident. The closure caused heavy backups on both sides of the border Monday morning. Travelers headed into Canada were redirected to the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel and Blue Water Bridge. Around 4 p.m., the Ambassador Bridge reopened for people crossing into Canada. The investigation is ongoing.
For the Detroit Free Press, I'm Keith Matheny. The Canadian government is seeking to halt U.S. federal court proceedings considering a shutdown of Line 5, the controversial 68-year-old twin underwater oil and gas pipelines on the Straits of Mackinac Lake bottom. Canadian officials on Monday formally invoked a 1977 treaty with the U.S. related to international oil and gas pipelines. That treaty includes provisions saying no public authority in either country can take actions that interfere with the transmission of products moved in the pipelines. The treaty further calls for the two nations to negotiate to resolve any disputes. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer last fall moved to revoke Canadian oil transportation giant Enbridge's 1954 easement, allowing it to use the Straits bottomlands to site its pipes. She says the company's record on pipeline safety is too problematic, putting Michigan's environment and economy at risk. Enbridge, however, says its lines are safe, and only federal pipeline regulators, not a state, can restrict their interstate operations.
I'm Sue Selesky, Detroit Free Press food writer. Restaurants' costs are up and profitability is down. Staff positions are still unfilled. Business conditions are far from normal. Those are a few of the findings restaurant operators say they are facing, according to a recent nationwide survey. The survey also found that the industry may see more turmoil in the coming months and is months away from a complete rebound. The survey of 4,000 restaurant operators was conducted by the National Restaurant Association. The Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association released Michigan-specific data, which shows a significant, quote, slowing down of any sort of rebound for the industry. Justin Winslow, president and CEO of the association, said in the statement, quote, "The impact of this virus and lack of state and federal support are still threatening the viability of our community restaurants." Michigan restaurants reported being 10 to 20% below staffing levels. Moving into the fall and winter months, the association doesn't expect the industry to improve. Restaurant operators say the Delta variant has had a negative impact on indoor dining.
I'm Andrew Hammond for the Free Press Sports Department. At 0-4 and once again taking up space in the basement of the NFC North, Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell addressed the media on Monday in the aftermath of Sunday's loss to the Chicago Bears. He understands that mistakes and miscues cost his team the ball game, but he also recognizes that if the ball bounces their way a few times, the Lions might be entering Sunday's matchup with the Minnesota Vikings coming off of a win.
Look, I would open up just saying that, look, it was a tough one yesterday, but the positives are, and we eliminate one explosive on defense and we score one touchdown out of the other 4 trips we were down there, and we win that game, and so, or we just score 2 touchdowns or 2 scores offensively. But you make 2 more plays and you're feeling a lot better today than what we did. So, hindsight, going back and looking at that, like, that doesn't excuse the loss, and there's a reason why things happen, but man, you make a couple of plays and all of a sudden you feel a lot different today than the way we feel. I thought some of our young receivers stepped up. That was encouraging. I thought Cephas made some plays. St. Brown, Leaf did a heck of a job out there, not only as a receiver, as a punt returner, as a blocker. And, and I thought our D-line up front are for the most part, played pretty good, but too many mistakes, too many errors.
For more stories from the Detroit Free Press, be sure to check out freep.com. That's FREEP.com. If you're a fan and want to support our quality local journalism, subscribe. Go to freep.com/special offer.